Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is Angela Coulter, your Consciousness Transformation Ascension Guide, originator of Trinity Energy Progression, bringing you this week's Living the Shift. So I'm going to apologize in advance if I don't see your comments because Facebook's been doing something weird the last couple of weeks when I do this. It doesn't seem to allow put the video up on my screen on my phone, and I'm not necessarily getting any comments until after I see. So if you put a comment and say hello, or you have a question or whatever, go ahead and put that in, and I might have to answer it afterward because I might just not see it. I hope to see it. I have comments on. I'm just gonna put this in. I see mine. We'll see what comes up. Because I don't know why it's not letting me see my comments anymore. Anyway, Merry Christmas Eve, Happy Yule Week, all kinds of holidays, end of year stuff. And from the spiritual community, so many are looking at, we've come to this big doorway, to, what people call the new earth. And and we can mark it through, I don't know, like the Jupiter Saturn conjunction or whatever. However, here's the thing, all that stuff. See, Sarah, I see your heart. So hopefully I'll see any comments. Good morning. And so, we can point it to all these different things. We can say there's all these different things that cause us to be in a doorway, but actually it's the opposite, which is that it's reflecting back to us to remind us that the doorway is there, that we've created it now, right? This doorway into the next phase, the next earth, and everybody's all excited. And I think many are very, very excited to move into something beyond what we have as a calendar year and on the earth right now, because it's been different, right? But so there's a couple of things though before we move forward that we're going to be required, that we are requiring ourselves to do, right? And they're the things that we keep on saying, oh yeah, no, I'll get to that later. Oh, I'll get to that later. It's like, cleaning the grout in the shower or something like, oh, I'll get to that later. It's sort of icky. I'm not really. So my understanding is, yes, we are at a huge shift. And not only are we at the doorway, but we are the doorway. We are the doorway. However, we won't even let ourselves through until we get to the place where we can accept ourselves as the whole, right? And so we say that and we talk about it in the spiritual community all the time. And so we know it here, and the difference is knowing it here, right? So this was a very perfect topic to come in. I wasn't even gonna do a podcast this morning on Christmas Eve, so I take a break, but I did take a couple of weeks break, earlier this month. Except it's really important to talk about. So there are these things, and I had this little conclave that I've been doing quarterly with some soul sisters of mine. We just did one the beginning of December in a very remote place, and all we did was self-work for the weekend. And I've talked about this, and Sarah Stigavanioni and I talked about this on our Monday podcast, Ascended World. So if you haven't seen that, go back and look at that. So we talked about, well, so what we did was we really dug in, what I call like a deep dive, where we really went into what is the thing that is holding us back. And the guidance wasn't to look at that thing as much as it was to looking at why we're holding that thing and what was underneath and the cause of us holding that thing. And whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Well, here's the thing, and here's the thing. We were talking. I've been talking with multiple people. I had a share online this week. I've had multiple conversations. And what comes up and looking and starting to just sort of point there, it's sort of like a tender spot. And the ego says, well, No, no, no. Just look at the resistance here, right? Because you're really practiced at looking at the resistance. So, and the thing is that the discovery was the resistance itself is a distraction to looking at what's underneath it and what's or behind it. And what's behind it is that the ego says, if I look, if I, because it's this thing that we keep on hitting on, and it's very individual for each of us because of the facets of ourselves that we created as divine consciousness. But within this scope, and it's not just here, but on Earth, we are at this pivotal point of shifting to what's next. And important to understand is that we are letting the old Earth as it has existed go. We're letting it go. Except we've fallen in love with it. We've fallen in love with the way we've done it. We've fallen in love with all of the feeling and the actual like sensations of it. And we've fallen in love with the suffering as much as we've fallen in love with the joy. We fall in love with the roller coaster because this is where we've created this here, right? So so we talk about moving forward, we talk about moving forward, and we keep on cycling back around. And many of us sit there and go, oh, I'm so done with this. I don't want to cycle around again. We've peaked and remembered and then crashed, peaked and crashed. Well, part of that we discovered in doing this deep dive, these consciousness transcendence sessions that we did together in this gathering that weekend, is that we discovered that it was because we don't want it to end. And we've actually sort of keep on cycling around because we're like, oh, look at that. We were victim to this. Well, anytime we say victim, we're ego, which is separation and dual based, which means that it's not from the higher consciousness. It's from some part of the ego, the collective earth ego, the individual egos, all of the above. It doesn't matter. And so we were, looking at this going, oh, well, because we have fallen in love with that, the sensations that we have created here. And many say, oh no, how could I live the suffering? Because we judge that. We judge that we have loved this creation that we've made, right? And one of the first steps for us to walk through this doorway into what's next is to take responsibility and say, yeah, I do. I do love that. I do love the suffering. I do love the things that we call disgusting and we judge the deepest, and I judge myself for creating that. So there's the thing that we're holding that we don't want to look at. So I will judge and judge and judge and judge because I don't want to look at the judgment within myself. And I'll talk about how I know everything that I judge or have any kind of dualistic emotions or energies around, such as, fear, anxiety, anger, regret, resentment, rejection, shame, judgment, guilt, doubt, sorrow, pain, all of that. Separation, duality based, which has been the the job of the ego, the exploration of the ego into separation and identity. And there's nothing wrong with that. The thing is that we judge that and we call that bad. It's not. It just is. And we've enjoyed those much as the things that we call joy and love and bliss because those are ego based too, because there means that, like it's like, oh, so glad to feel this again because that's what I want to feel. Well, no, but or do we just allow ourselves to feel it? So it's shifting ourself. It's shifting and stepping through this doorway. It's shifting ourselves to take full responsibility of saying, yes, I have loved the suffering as much as I have loved the bliss and the joy and the excitement. The excitement in what we call the negative as much as the positive. And we have a really challenging time with that because then when we admit to it, then we have to acknowledge that we're the ones that are holding ourselves back, that there is no victimhood, that there is no, I mean, truly, it's really funny as we talk about it and talk about it and talk about it, and something that I talk about in Trinity Energy Progression, and that's there is, like everything is us. Just what facet of us created, how we created it into facets of us, and then promptly forgot on purpose for part of that sensation and for part of the bigger picture. So we get really myopic and think here on earth, this is it. This is the center of the universe. No matter what we say, we still think, oh yeah, well, earth is the only ones. We're so special and we're going through this and everybody, is watching on and they're pulling us along. It's like, well, we are are very special, but we are not at the same time. B, we are a very small part of a very big multi-dimensional, multiversal project of creation. But we are an important part. And so the thing is, for it's like the project's ready to move on to the next phase, and Earth has to is to be complete, so that the next piece that we create from that is to come into creation, and that's how we created it. And to do that is for us to let go, and let go of, and come to the idea of what I had to look at, what I not had to, what I chose to look at, finally, and digging so deep was saying, oh, well, I'm afraid of, I'm afraid. I fear and I grieve and I'm sorrowful because I um, cease to exist when this ceases to exist. Because I, as the ego, and I'm not talking about the ego here, I'm talking about even at the soul levels, I cease to exist when this ceases to exist. And it really already has. And then it was like the realization that I'm an illusion, that I am an illusion, and that we all are. That because we talk about everything around us as an illusion, it's like, and so am I, because I'm just part of, as the divine consciousness embodied this way into a form. And so, therefore, and saying the divine consciousness, and including the all, and the, you want to call it the all mother, the all father, however, in rebirthing ourselves, is to rebirth ourselves into claiming that, and to say, okay, so I also created separation. I also created darkness. I also created the shadow because we love it. We love the depth it provides. We wouldn't have the rainbow or the sensations, the physical stuff that we have, the colors, the vibrancy, the smells, the tastes, had we not created separation. We would not have that sensation the way we have created it. And so we've fallen in love with that. And so, like I said, the pain just as much as the bliss, because it's such a unique sensation, right? That we don't have as a whole, in the whole. So we have a hard time coming to terms with that, because we have so many layers of us that have judged the judgment, judged the, things as bad, right? Ask 20 different people what bad is or what evil is, and you'll get 20 different answers, based on what their filter of the journey is. But that's the beauty of what we've created, and the ego and that individuality is we have these different perspectives, these different facets of this beautiful, incredible, infinitely powerful gemstone that we are, right? And we aren't at the same time. So whatever we're holding on to, so we all came here with the seed to really if we're here and we are manifested and embodied, we're here to be a part of manifesting the seed of growth into what we're creating next, right? And in doing so, allowing the earth to be gone, to let it go, right? We talk about saving the earth and whatever, we talk about evolving, but at the same time, we like to say that because we like to hold on to the idea that it has to be like we have to start here and then always have this foundation. It's almost like my husband had a great analogy for this. So we had, last year, we moved, and we had been in our house for 22 years, and the government, the local government, they were building a highway near that old house, and they're taking it down because they're moving roads and stuff like that. And so my kids were born, my kids pretty much were one was born and raised while we were there. The other one was very like a baby when we moved there. So that's all they knew. That was what they grew up with. And so 22 years of our marriage, of our kids growing up and everything else, all was embedded in that home. And so, when we first found out that was happening, that the government was going to buy our house from us so they could take it down, all kind of stuff, you got angry. We then we accepted, and then we were okay. What we had for us to get okay with it was to grieve and allow it to go, to see the purpose and the beauty of all of it and to know that it's time to move on. So by the time came when we moved, we found this fabulous house. And when since we had allowed that grieving, we had allowed that completion of the function of the house, by the time it came to move on, we were like, okay, well, then let's create the next incredible house for us. And we did. And we love the house that we're in now. And it is perfect for everything that we need. And we looked at a lot of houses and I was like, nope, it'll come, it'll come. And it did. And we had a great deal on it and everything else. We had a great experience. The whole thing was a great experience. I know you hear a lot of people complain about when that happens. And I'm like, we had a fabulous experience. We got a great price for everything. It all worked out. We got a wonderful house and everything else. So, and here's the thing, I'm so present here. It's not that I don't miss the house. It's not that I didn't love it, but I know that that was complete. And so I think it was about 2 months after we had moved out, they actually raised the house to the ground. And now you can't even tell there's a house there because they're starting to build the road. And so it's funny because, one of my old neighbors sent a picture of it and I was like, and she's like, oh, does that upset you? And I was like, no, actually. And for a moment, it took my breath away. For a moment, I looked at the picture of the rubble and I was like, and then I was like, yep, well, that's just perfect because, it's done. And I'm so thankful, have so much gratitude for that. And so the thing is, so my kids don't have a house to go back to and say, oh, this house we grew up in, even though we live someplace else, all that kind of stuff. There's no going back, right? So if we allowed ourselves to say, it's done, it's complete, I have so much gratitude, and we allow ourselves to grieve it a little bit and really allow ourselves to grieve it because we have fallen in love with this entire existence. And to say, okay, I accept that and I'm going to let myself grieve and be sad and I'm going to, maybe dwell on it a little bit. I know I did. It took me like probably, a year or so to really, get to that place. And then there were still moments and then it was like, yeah, but you know what? Once I was done and it felt so good and so free to be like, okay, now I'm ready for this and what's present now. And that's the present. That is what the present is for all of us, is to come to that realization, to accept that, and to not just accept that we've loved like the things we love to taste or smell or feel, but also that we've loved the things we hate like to taste or smell or feel. We love the victimhood, we love the disempowerment, we love the stuff we've created, and as well as the saving each other and martyrdom, and like we've loved all of that. And so it's time for us to come to this place of saying, yeah, what a great present to have completed this. And look at how beautifully we've done it and how saturated we have created this experience and in this experience. So much so that we have other parts of the divine consciousness that have faceted in other parts of the multiverse that have said, I want to try that before it goes. I want to try that. And they've embodied and gone and been like, wow, that was intense, but that was quite a roller coaster. Like, think about that. And those of us who've managed this project, it's like, well, we've loved it so much. Some of us have been incarnate here for 1,000 lives or more. So, and we've helped the project to continue and to complete. And now it's time to say, yeah, look at what an awesome job we did. And now look at us being able to let it go. And it's time. We're good. We're complete. And to do that, though, is for me to also take ownership of all of that. And whatever it is, somebody I said, well, I think I won't let go of that thing that I won't let go of because my ego says I don't know what I'll be if I let go of that. And there's that realization of I will cease to exist, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's fabulous because when we do that and when we allow ourselves that remembrance and wholeness, then we are in such bliss we can't even describe it here because that is just our natural state. And now we even appreciate it even more because we've created such a faceted idea of partitions and looking at ourselves in a reflection and me and not me. So that's the gift today. The gift is to, look at that discomfort that we're touching on here, or the denial, saying, oh, I don't have anything like that. So there's two different directions. It's either I don't have anything like that, or yeah, that makes me feel uncomfortable. I just don't want to look at it. Because actually they're both related. That's denial of like, oh yeah, no. And because underneath it is, no, I don't want to look at that. So, so I want to do a little session with everybody today to um, allow that in, to allow even the grieving, so that because that's part of the process of, and we enjoy the grieving too because we're very attached. We've created the idea of attachment and duality, and we can just go down that rabbit hole so many ways. So let's allow ourselves to grieve. Let's allow ourselves to look at it, and not just plow through, but be comfortable in sitting with it, even if it's uncomfortable. To say, okay, what if this is complete? What if I go to sleep and nothing exists in the next moment? It could happen. I think part of what we've created in this year, this physical year on Earth, has been to give us more flexibility on accepting things, being able to accept things that we didn't put in the expectation of definitions of what's going to happen next. To be able to accept creation out of context, without context, to say, wow, how did this happen, or where did this come from? And instead just saying, okay, well, what is there for me to be and to do now? And when we get to that place, and we can, look at, oh, well, look at what I've been holding on to, look at what I still like demand to keep myself in victimhood, or us in victimhood, or I mean, look at what we've created with the virus. And that's something I'm sure Sarah and I are going to talk about on Monday on Ascended World. So hop over to that channel and look at that with us. But when let's do a little session. We'll do a little energy session right now, as my little Christmas holiday, Yule, whatever, new creation gift to you, because you are me, and of course in love I would not do anything but give love and gifts to you. So we're going to set the intention of creation to open our heart, to allow ourselves to see what it is that we're holding ourselves back with, to see the thing that we are so adamantly and desperately holding on to because we're afraid if we let it go then we lose our identity, and to be able to do so with comfort and ease, to make it easy and joyous, and to know that that's possible and okay, and to open our heart to allow that, to allow the comprehension and the remembrance, and the remembrance on shifting, on how to shift it and allow it to go and let it go. So to do that, all you got to do is close your eyes, take a deep breath, open your heart, be willing to accept and allow within yourself as we create that together. Ready? that was it for today. Hope you enjoyed that. You can come back on the recording and listen to it and be a part of that meditation again. Take that with you and stay with your commitment to allowing yourself the gift of remembering and remembering what's holding you back, what you've held yourself back with, and that has all been you. That you've created all of this. Take full responsibility for all of that, and that we've loved every minute of it. And then in grieving, allow the grievance and then let it go. I know that sounds like a lot in one breath, in one little meditation. And it's going to be it's a little process. It can be short, it can be long, but it's up to us to really acknowledge it, to fully move forward into this doorway of amazing creation that's next. So on that, I'm going to let you go. Have a great one. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. We'll see you next week. This is Angela Coulter signing out with this week's Living the Shift. Have a good one.